Hello, game designers. In this video, we're going to cover how to make Homer's head. So when we last left off, we were welding the hands to the arms. So a couple things for setup purposes. Make sure that your symmetry is on off because we're going to deal with the head, and that's not going to deal with symmetry quite yet. And then we're going to go ahead and reframe Homer. So I'm going to click on his body, hit F, click on his body, hit F, click on the body, hit F, and click on his body, hit F. I'm going to go back to group number 1, which is our references, and go ahead and click H to unhide it. Okay, so now we see all of our references again. And we're going to start making Homer's head. Now, as you can already guess, Homer's head is going to be spherical. Okay, that's what we're going to start. So we'll go ahead and make a sphere. Now, it doesn't matter if you have interactive select or not. Mine has interactive select here, so I can create it using just pull and drags. But if you just click it and it creates one, that's just fine as well, because we're going to end up going to the channel box anyway. So in our channel box, we're going to go ahead and change the radius to 0.75. And the more important part is the subdivisions of 12 and 12. Again, it's always good to use multiples of 6. And if you remember, our cylinder used 12 sections as well, and that's going to match our sphere when we make the neckline for Homer. Okay, so that's important that we have the same subdivision axes of 12 as our body that we're going to weld it to. Now, the subdivision of height could be different. If you want to do more, you can do more. If you want to do less, you can do less. I recommend at least 12. Okay. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is make sure that all my XYZ values are 0, 0, 0. Okay. So that it's nice and aligned. I'm now going to go ahead and click on the move tool and go ahead and move the head somewhere in the center of Homer's head. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit F again to go ahead and frame his head and kind of see where I'm at. Okay. And the first thing that I notice is that my references are not symmetrical to the XYZ axes. So we can go ahead and fix that real quick. So I'm going to click on group number 1. We're going to go to NURB surface, which is the first plane that we're using for reference. And I'm going to use the top view here and just move the red arrow a little bit to the right so that we have a nice reference that's symmetrical to the x-axis. And I'm just going to flip my perspective view to the back. And I notice again that my NURB plane number 2 is not symmetrical. So I'm going to also move it to the right using the top view. And that will move it to the left. And that looks symmetrical now. So now it seems like I have good references. Okay. So let's go ahead and collapse that now. And let's go ahead and go back to our sphere. So our sphere is 0.75 and 12 subdivisions of axes, 12 subdivisions of height. And there's many ways that you guys can, to model. I'm going to use mainly the soft select and pull method, soft select and move method to kind of create the top of his head, his nose area, his chin, his mouth. Okay. But the first thing I'm going to do is actually prepare the neck. I think that's kind of the part that I don't want to wait till the last moment and then figure out that my neck isn't prepared. So I'm going to use, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the R scale tool. So hotkey R to scale. And I'm going to kind of elongate this sphere. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use the W tool now, kind of move it up, kind of move it down. And I think that's about where I want it, okay, to prepare my head for Homer. So to prepare for the neck, you had to think about the bottom part that you're going to connect. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the vertex tool, and you can see that there's a vertex on the tip here, and then there's a row of vertices here. Okay, and they're very hard to kind of separate from one another. And you can kind of look at the top view, it's easier. So you can see that the top is similar to the bottom. It's going to be one point on the top here, followed by a ring of vertices like this. So my goal is to go ahead and select the bottommost vertice. So I'm going to go ahead and try to click on the bottommost vertice, and I got it right there. You can see my top view that I selected it, and I'm just going to pull it way down, okay? Because what's going to end up happening is I'm going to end up deleting these faces anyway, and then welding this first row of vertices to the neck. So I just want that point kind of out of the way, okay? And now that it's out of the way, I'm going to be able to select the first row of vertices much easier. And now I'm going to kind of move it down here, and I'm going to kind of scale it using the R tool. And I'm going to scale it kind of both ways. You kind of keep your eye on the front and keep your eye on the side here. And I'm going to scale it to about where I think I need my neck. And you can tell that I'm probably going to do next is rotate it. I'm going to use E. And I'm going to rotate it on this X-axis here. And it looks like it's almost kind of ready to go. I think I can move it a little bit more to the left here. And I can use the scale tool and scale it up just a tad bit. And it looks like I'm almost kind of got my neck ready to go, right? So again, the point of me moving it downward and then rotating and scaling it is that I make sure that I don't lose track of my rows, right? Because I want to be able to click on these rows really easily without clicking anything else on the row below it, okay? So I kind of have my neck kind of ready to go already, and I think I can weld that pretty easily. So right now I'm actually going to go onto Homer's body and click H and hide it. I kind of know where I want it already, okay? Maybe a little bit longer later, okay? But let's go ahead and actually let's go and take care of that vertex right now. So let's go back to Vertex Mode. It looks like I can make my neck just a tad bit bigger, okay? Yep, and that looks good. And make sure it's not too wide right there. And it looks like I got corner to corner where I want his neck. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start kind of making sure that, you know, some of these rings are way too small, and we can kind of save ourselves some time by kind of doing something we did to the body. Click on a row of rings, and remember, we're going to have to scale in two directions. So we can either scale to side and on the front view and front to back using the side view. So I'm going to scale using the middle bar first. In the minute I hit a point like this, I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to scale this way, okay, to kind of get the width that I want. And now I'm going to go ahead and click on the next set of points. And I'm going to, again, scale it out until I hit at least some side of his face. And you can see that I hit right here. And I'm going to go ahead and scale using the red axis. Okay. And it looks like Homer's head's a little bit still not symmetrical, so let me go and fix that real quick. I'm going to move using the move tool and move my scale just about right so I get a nice reference. Okay, that looks good. Okay, go ahead and close back there. Let's go back to my sphere again. Okay, so I finished, looks like I finished that row. So I'm going to go back to Vertex Mode. I'm going to go to the next row of vertex. Oops, the next row of vertex. And I'm going to use the scale tool again. And I kind of already hit the side of his head, back of his head here, so I don't want to kind of use that anymore. Looks like I can kind of scale just a little bit more here. I'm going to go to the next set of vertices. I'm going to scale to the back of his head, and it looks like actually that my I had to use the blue axis because the side's already kind of hitting his head. So I'm going to pull that out there, and I'm going to go ahead and again, looks like I can pull a little bit on the red. And a little bit on the blue, but some of these points are already hitting, so I don't want to go over. So I'm going to click the next set of rows, and it looks like I'm already kind of hitting on the side, maybe a little bit more on the side here. Looks like I'm already hitting on the front. I'm going to stop there. Hit the next row. It looks like I already hit the front. The sides can look like they can expand a little bit more here. Okay, and I can go back and click on this over here. The front's already hitting, but the sides are not, so I can kind of push out the sides. I'm going to go over here, push out the sides, and I'm going to go to the top. And looks like I can just pull these, okay? So I kind of, you know, filled the volume out by stretching out the cylinders here so that everything looks still relatively straight, vertices here. But now we're actually going to use soft select and start pulling these faces to kind of make the chin, the nose, the back of the forehead. Okay, so let's first click on this point right here, and I'm going to use the move tool, so the W tool, and I'm going to use press and hold B. So I'm holding B right now, and I'm going to left click and drag, and I'm going to start out big and just see how that looks. So I'm going to start making his chin. So I'm going to do a soft select on all these points. Again, the points that are yellow means they're going to be affected more. As it gets further away to red and pink and black, it's less affected. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these vertices out and maybe downward here. Okay, something like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on the next vertice here and kind of pull that out. As you can see right now, my neck is not the way I want it. So let's go ahead and fix the neck if I need to. So I'm going to click the center of the neck and kind of push that in back in here. Because of, because of soft select, I'm going to end up pulling it out a little bit anyway. Okay. So you can see that, it's kind of a game right here, right now, when you're kind of playing, trying to get exactly what you want for the pull. Okay. And again, if you feel like maybe B is just too big and is affecting too many points, you can lower it down. Just be cognitive that the lower it is, it might make that point look a little bit too sharp. Okay. You can see right here that Homer's, kind of sharp right here. And I guess this is a good opportunity to go ahead and do it and do everything in smooth view and kind of get a real idea of what it's going to look like at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and click on smooth view right now, which is number 3. Okay, and you kind of get into smooth view and kind of see what this thing's going to ultimately look like when we smoothen everything out. So it looks like I can push this one in a little bit here, and it looks like I can kind of move this one a little bit back, kind of create that here. And we're not going to make the nose yet. We can make that in a later video. But I just want the rough idea, the geometry of his head. So kind of his eyebrows right here. And his eyebrows is not going to be quite centered, because it's kind of whatever making this right here is his eyebrows. So actually I'm going to, it would be a good opportunity to go ahead and turn on Symmetry on to Object X. So now that if I click on one eyebrow right here, right close to his eyebrow, it's going to move the other opposite eyebrow. So I want to kind of create a little bump right here for his eyebrow. Okay. Let's go ahead and work on the back of his neck. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to kind of pull back on it and see how I like that. Okay, that looks good. And I'm going to start worrying about this little big part of his head. So when you have this huge bump that you want to kind of increase out, you want to kind of select in the middle point of all of these and pull it up. And when you do this, you got to make sure that your B is big enough. So my B, I kind of decrease the size, but for the back of the skull, I can go probably pretty big. So like that, and maybe a little bit up. And you I kind of got it right? Kind of on the first try there. Kind of got that round head to go all the way around here. I can go and click on the back of this neck here and maybe click on the lower vertex here. That one right there. Or not. Let's click on that one right there. Nope, it doesn't like me. Let's go ahead and just use turn off our soft select for a minute and see if we can still click on this ring for the neck and kind of move it a little bit there. Okay. And kind of see if we can select just this vertex right here. And maybe we can do a soft select here. So I'm going to use soft select, kind of lower down the soft select, and kind of move this neck a little bit back. Okay. And yeah, now we kind of got the geometry of Homer's head. Maybe you want to make the eyes a little bit more bulgy here. So maybe I'm clicking maybe right here where his eye would be, or maybe even the closer point right here. And I'm just going to kind of do a soft select here. Let's try this one and see how we like it. Kind of bulge out his eyes. Okay, for his eyes. Maybe I don't like that part here. Maybe I want to go one more point, maybe right here. So this is maybe where his eye is, and I'm going to go ahead and bulge it out to kind of meet those eyes there. And everything else looks pretty good. And we can go back and add more detail later. Actually, I'm looking at this view right here, and I kind of don't like it. I don't think his eyes are that huge. So I'm just going to undo that. Because ultimately his eyes are kind of two more spheres that we can pluck in here later on. Okay, so let's look at the back of his head. The back of his head doesn't look quite like it's enough volume. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag soft select on the back of his head and kind of pull out a little bit here. Okay, so you kind of look at the top view here that I'm using and kind of see that, yeah, I don't think that the back of its head is quite big enough for his area here. So I'm going to click on this back vertex here. It looks like his neck can use a little bit more here on the back of his neck. Click on this vertex here, pull just a little bit. And yeah, now it looks like the back of his head looks good. I can go to the front. The front of his head looks pretty good. And now we're ready to go ahead and weld this thing. Okay, so again, when I pull down the neck really down here, it makes it really easy for us to go to face select and just go ahead and click on, make sure you don't have soft select on, and just click on all of these faces and just hit delete. And if we hit delete and if everything works, we now have a neck ready to go. Now again, the only reason why this works is because we have 12 symmetry axes and basically 12 subdivisions that we can go ahead and use to connect to our body. So let's go and go back to our body, which is cylinder 2 in my example, and I'm going to click H to unhide it, and let's go ahead and move it just slightly down using the move tool, and make sure there's just a little bit of a gap that we can see kind of all the vertices. I think I'm actually going to keep the body there. I'm going to move the head up a little bit. Just move the head up just slightly, and move the head down just slightly. Give us some room to work on our vertices. Okay, so again, when we weld objects to other objects, we want to make sure that there are the same mesh. So I'm going to left click either here on my outliner, or you can left click on your using your perspectives. Just make sure that both objects are highlighted. We're going to go to mesh, combined. Now they are one mesh again, and now we can actually go in and go ahead and merge these vertices. So we're going to go to Vertex Mode, and you can use any view you want, whatever view you think is most comfortable to you. Some of you guys will think the perspective view is the best. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my my references right now, so that I can concentrate on these vertices. Okay. All right, and it looks like all the vertices kind of line up kind of beautifully. Okay, so let's go ahead and start somewhere like the back of the head and work our way clockwise or counterclockwise. Okay, so I'm going to go to Vertex Mode, and I'm going to use Target Weld. And in this scenario, I don't want to move one to the other. Maybe I just want something centered. So I'm going to use center as the type of option. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off smooth view right now. Go ahead and click back number 1, so I can go back to poly view here, and just go ahead and start welding. So I'm going to take this one right here and weld it to this one right here, right? And it creates a point somewhere in the middle. I'm going to start kind of go clockwise here. Click there, and again, my object X is on, so it's kind of doing it to both sides. Grab that one right there, weld that, weld that, weld that. Okay, this is kind of my mistake here for making it too close here, but I should be able to weld that. And the last one is the neck. And let me go ahead and lower down my view right here. And I'm going to take that one and weld it there. And now we have Homer's head welded to the rest of his body, and we can go ahead and, you know, you can go ahead and come back if you fix it if you feel like something's kind of doesn't look right. Like kind of the back of the neck here doesn't look quite right for me. So maybe I'm going to go back here and maybe clean up right now. Go ahead and click back on my group 1, click back the references, and do maybe some soft pulling and moving here to kind of clean this up a little bit. I'm going to go back and go ahead and click on 3. And since this is one mesh now, I'm going to click on 3, go back to smooth view. Okay, go back to object mode here and go and click on the object. Click on smooth view. Okay, and I kind of get an idea of what it looks like. I'm going to go back to poly view. And let's go ahead and do some fixing here. And this is unnecessary. I mean, if you get to this point, you can go ahead and stop the video. If you're kind of getting, you know, just want to see some, you know, some perfectionist personality where, you know, something doesn't quite look right. You want to go ahead and fix it. I'm going to go ahead and use Vertex Mode. I'm going to go to W, and I'm going to go ahead and click here and kind of scale up. Click on this and kind of get these points kind of fixed out. I'm going to click on that one, kind of move it out. This back of the head looks way too sharp, and I think my B's not big enough, and it's kind of have a bigger effect here. Okay, kind of smoothing it out here. Okay, and it looks like that one's too sharp. Okay. Alright, and maybe move this one in a little bit and see where the neck is. Yep, that's good there. So let's go and move this one back out. I'm going to use 3, kind of see what it looks like in smooth view. And in smooth view, it doesn't look quite bad. Okay, so maybe in our poly view, it looks horrible. But if you look at our smooth view, it actually has very nice curves and will look like the back of Homer's head here. Okay, so anyway, that's the video on how to make Homer's head.